I think everybody knows that Facebook is not your friend. And if you think Facebook is your friend, you may want to talk with Rick Sanatorium about the founding of America, because you're a pretty naive person. But
I friend Mark Zuckerberg.
My friend is Mark Zuckerberg. He was my friend.
I just really quickly, actually, I'll reset this in a second. I was in a conversation. I was at a bar a couple years ago, and I don't remember how this conversation came up, but somebody started talking about Facebook, social media, whatever, and I, made this point that I think was very common knowledge, that a big question around things like Facebook is that basically fundamentally they've created a commons and an infrastructure, which sure we technically use for free, but the whole business model is obviously just mining our data and selling it. And, it's like what Al Gore called the other week. Al Gore said we're living in a stalker economy. And that's the business model of these sites, right? And this girl was like, if you don't like Facebook, don't use it. And you don't complain about walking on sidewalks, do you? I mean, she literally said this. And I just was so amazed that, her attitude about Facebook was like, it was this beautiful gift for the public, and any criticism of it was like being an ungrateful brat, basically, because of and it just just the inversion that, like, well, that's on you. If you don't want some giant mega company violating your privacy, don't use it. Versus regulate the company, protest the company. It was pretty astonishing. But anyways, so look, we know that Facebook has a problematic record with your data and your privacy. There's nothing really new about that. But Facebook did something that's just emerging. They did it in 2012, actually, that is very interesting because it holds a lot of stakes, not only for who they are as a company and how far they're willing to go to manipulate their users and to kind of pry into not only your data, but your emotions, your outlook, your priorities, your very state of being, basically, as a way of which to sell your data and market you products more effectively. And then on the other side of it, there's some very disturbing implications for the future of academic research and how we're conducting research and control groups on human participants. So in 2012, January 2012, 700,000 Facebook users had their news feeds manipulated, basically. I'll read just briefly from this article in the Atlantic. 700 users saw when they logged on into its service, into Facebook's service, some people were showed content with a preponderance of happy and positive words. So in other words, their search results were changed so that if you went on, you would see a higher rate of, I just got this great news, I just had this great time at such and such restaurant, here I am having fun with whoever. This was what you saw. Went to this great performance, played a great game, whatever. So their search results were manipulated for happy. Then another group, their content was filtered for sad and desperate and depressed content. And the goal of the research was to see if people started posting in response to their social filters, which makes intuitive sense that you would respond in kind to the emotions you're around. And that was what they were trying to measure. Now, they did this, of course, without any permission, as they do most everything with their users. And they.
I'm sure if you look in their terms of service, they don't need permission.
I'm sure if you look in their terms of service, we're actually being disassembled and boxed and sold to China in 2030.
Oh, for sure.
Or maybe that's Apple. I mean, terms of service are a whole other kind of cruel Byzantine thing that there's absolutely no public accountability about. So that's what they did. And they handed that research off, the results of it wound up in a study that ended up being published in an academic journal. And basically, there's the basic question is obviously legally for any type of experiment like that, even online or any type of psychological counseling or anything like that, you need to get participants' permission. Obviously, Facebook didn't do that, and Facebook would argue and does argue that it doesn't need its users' permission for anything, basically, because, as you say, you're signing onto user agreements and you're participating in their infrastructure so they can do anything. But the broader question is, as public research is decimated and underfunded, and more research is going to come out of these platforms because that's where the money is. And the only purpose of this research fundamentally is just to understand and drive consumer behavior. How do academic institutions respond to that? And what's the next framework to govern those things? See, this is the big thing. When we talk about everything, the conversation on NSA spying and surveillance and the whistleblowing by Edward Snowden and everything else, that's vital. But we're in a whole new world where it's corporate spying. It's our whole lives being turned inside out. And then we could see with corporations demanding, so we talked to Ian Mielheiser, I don't want to disclose what we put in that chemical formula. That's our free speech. F you. I don't want to say what kind of risk we're taking with our portfolios. I don't want to say what our record is on evicting people from our homes or mortgages. F you, F you, F you. That's my freedom of speech. I don't want to say a damn thing. On the other hand, what do you have left? You're a completely transparent object to be sold products, manipulated in search terms, and then, surveilled. So in order to have those conversations, in order to get the bigger context, you need to think not just in terms of radically reining in these government programs, but radically reining in this new economy that has no concept of, no really fully realized concept of consumer protections and of privacy and of broader accountability, and also how to maintain the viability of academic research and the independence and integrity of academic research. So, we're going to keep following that story. There's a lot more to it, but I think fundamentally the big takeaway was Mark Zuckerberg's kind of a dick.